Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
I think that, to be very honest with you, I do believe that we should have rightly believed, but we certainly believe that certain issues are just settled. Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right, and that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times. That is especially true when it comes to the climate crisis, which is why we will work together and continue to work together to address these issues, to tackle these challenges, and to work together as we continue to work operating from the new norms, rules, and agreements that we will convene to work together on to galvanize global action. With that, I thank you all. This is a matter of urgent priority for all of us, and I know we will work on this together.
Joining us now, the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. Madam Vice President, good morning. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, Savannah. Thank you.
Well, let's just start right there with Ukraine. The president was pretty clear. Russia will be held accountable if it invades, and it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion, and then we end up having to fight about what to do and what not to do. Did the president essentially give the green light to Vladimir Putin to take a piece of Ukraine, to take a bite out of Ukraine?
On a different front, Axios this week reported that President Trump, if he gets a second term, will sort of dial back, for lack of a better term, DEI programs that the Biden administration has put in forth. Obviously, I know you disagree with that. I obviously believe that you don't want him to get a second term. That said, if that does happen, what do you think that would do to race relations in this country?
Well, let me say we're going to win, so it's not going to happen. But I think that, listen, today is actually, I believe, an anniversary in terms of Dr. King, right? And I was just in Selma, and we acknowledged the 59th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. I think it's really important that we as Americans always embrace our history, the parts that we're proud of and the parts that we're not proud of, but that we can't forget. And we should all agree that we should teach history, we should learn history if we're to ever have an accurate idea of where we want to go and where we don't want to go in the future. And that means also acknowledging the importance of diversity. It means acknowledging the importance of the fact that everyone should have equal opportunity to compete and equity. And then, of course, inclusion, that, hey, let's look around the room and see who's not here, and did we leave the door open? That unlike for some of us, the thing of Encyclopedia Britannica is a thing of a long time ago, and now the kids need to be online to help get their homework done. Broadband wire, why do we care about that? We're going to lay it across the country because we know that our seniors might need the benefit of telemedicine if it's too far to get to a hospital. Our small business owners need access to high-speed broadband to run those small businesses that are part of what fuels America's economy.
We are in deep shit.
This is my third trip to the Indo-Pacific region as Vice President, and really signifies the significance of the relationship between the United States and our allies and partners in this region. The discussions that we had included, in large part, a discussion about the significance of the climate crisis and what we can do as the United States to be a leader in that regard. I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been, What can be unburdened by what has been. 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 What we can see, what we believe can be, unburdened by what has been. What can be, unburdened by what has been. What can be, unburdened by what has been. What can be, unburdened by what has been. Who we can be, unburdened by who we have been. What can be unburdened by what has been. Where we can be, unburdened by where we have been, and unburdened by where we are right now. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What could be unburdened by what had been. What can be unburdened by what has 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 been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
Unburdened by what has been, believing in what can be. What can be unburdened by what has been. 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 What could be unburdened by what had been. What can be unburdened by what has 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 been. What can be, what should be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. See what can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. Unburdened by what has been and knowing what can be. Have a sense of vision about what can be unburdened by what has been. To see what can be unburdened by what has been. 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 That can be unburdened by what has been. There are those who are unable to see what can be. But there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been.
Even a GOP leader?
I am meeting with a lot of folks, and the work that we have begun is the work that is going to be ongoing. There is no question, and I said this from the very beginning, that our approach to this issue has to be with a commitment to a long-term investment. And it has to be a commitment to consistency. The United States has to be consistent. There were times when we were more engaged and we saw good results. Less engaged, and we can see where the work and the partnerships then deteriorate. So I am committed to ensuring that we engage in an active way on the root causes, on addressing the cause and effect, and also being partners in the Western Hemisphere, understanding that we have a responsibility, and if we ignore that responsibility, it will visit itself upon us in a very domestic way. So thank you.
About border security.
Ma'am, the U.S. is experiencing record inflation, the worst in 30 years, way beyond expectations. OPEC didn't increase oil production. Can you tell us a little bit about how you would prevent the new spending and your Build Back Better agenda from exacerbating the problem? And also, what else are you going to do to fix this problem with inflation?
All right, thank you. Well, let's start with this. Prices have gone up, and families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. That's about having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only economic, but is on a daily level. something that is a heavy weight to carry. So it is something that we take very seriously. But there is also a point that is important to make on the Build Back Better framework. One, it is designed to make it less expensive for working people to live and make it available to all those working families that need that support and need that help. And Build Back Better is not going to cost anything. We're paying for it.
Does the administration say, you know what, this strategy isn't working, we're going to change strategies? 6 former administration officials last week wrote that open letter urging the administration to change course, to change strategy. Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down. And so right now we know we still have a number of people that is in the millions.
Space is exciting. It spurs our imaginations, and it forces us to ask big questions. Space, it affects us all, and it connects us all.
Because when we think about the strength of our democracy, you know, I think that there's a duality to the nature of democracy. When it's intact, oh, it's so strong in terms of what it does to uphold and protect individual rights and freedoms. So strong in its nature. And it is very fragile. It will only be as strong as our willingness to fight for it.
Rights, but one of your top aides, Larry Wallace, was accused of sexual harassment, and you said you weren't aware of what had happened. Did anyone tell you what was going on at your office?
I did not know about that case, but I will tell you that it makes the point that no office is immune. I have been a fighter for women's rights, and for my entire career. I have fought for women who have been abused. I have fought for women who have been harassed. I have fought for women's empowerment as it relates to wage benefits, as it relates to opportunities for professional success, and I will always be a fighter for women's rights.
Did you reach to the alleged victim in this specific case to offer your support?
I have indicated that I am very supportive of all women who come forward and speak up and have the courage to speak up.
In this specific case?
In this specific case, I have not talked to the victim.
Why didn't you talk to the victim?
That case is being handled by the Attorney General's office, and I've left it up to that office to handle the case as they have seen fit, which included a settlement.